You for being here this morning, coming into the afternoon pretty shortly. I'm here joined by some great friends, Councilmember Dan Strauss and the beautiful District 6. We're here in front of the Carta de Oaxaca. And by the way, you have to try their mole. I've been told, I've had it. It's like a chicken sauce, one of the best in the city. So after this press conference, I'm encouraging all of the people to come and enjoy this great restaurant. So I want to thank Councilmember Strauss on doing what's most important in our One Seattle approach. That's listening to people, figuring out how we can help small businesses. Over 10,000 people were contacted looking for opinions, and what we found out, as we deal with the ravages of COVID, helping small businesses, which I think we all could agree are the backbone of a great city. The ecosystem of restaurateurs and small businesses are so important, particularly when brick and mortar companies struggle in the world of e-commerce. So Councilmember Strauss and the City Council looked and listened, and a lot of this work was done during the height of the pandemic when we needed to know how can we be flexible. So we're standing below an indoor structure, a typical example of what has helped small businesses. And we're going to continue this for some period of time and to continue to gather information. But we know, working with small businesses and neighborhoods, that without interfering with the webs and flow of traffic and the issues of how we use sidewalks and curbs, doing it in a balanced, methodical way, that this helps small businesses. So I'm very proud to sign the legislation under Councilmember Strauss's leadership and the other council members that helped him. You're also going to hear from Kristen Simpson, our interim director at SDOT, as well as Steve Hooper with the Restaurant Alliance and the Ethan-style restaurants. But again, what we're trying to do is show flexibility. And I've said this when I was running for office, that the city has to find a way to make sure we have a vibrant business, small business environment such that employees and employers can thrive in this city. And so we think this is a critical component of it, using our built environment and our listening ability to communities to build and forge a way for success of everyone. So I'm going to introduce Councilmember Dan Strauss to say a few words. And Councilmember Dan Strauss, the mic's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I want to first start by thanking Mayor Harrell for bringing attention to this. He had the opportunity to sign this at his desk in City Hall, and instead he wanted to come out here and highlight the entrepreneurial spirit of our smallest businesses here in our city. I want to talk about the pathway to permanence and remind us where we've come from and where we are going. When the pandemic started in March of 2020, it took until August of 2020 to allow the flexibility for structures like we're standing under today to be permitted. We missed that first summer, and that's no fault of anyone. It's because we were reacting to the pandemic. What happened at that point was we said we're going to have some temporary permits, and that meant that small businesses did not know how long it would last. And so in August of 2020, we started the pilot program. In May of 2021, we stepped out of pilot mode into interim standards. And that gave businesses the certainty and flexibility that they needed to create the structure like we're in today. If you look up at the burned wood, this is not just your standard structure. If you look at Skull right behind me, they have intricate woodwork done. These businesses could not make the investment that we're under today without that certainty that it would pay off. And so I want to highlight that last summer was the first summer we had the ability, the businesses had certainty to know that they could invest in structures, and we saw high levels of engagement. This last winter was the first winter that we got to have outdoor dining when businesses had the certainty they needed. And I'll tell you, I was out here in 37-degree weather, and the outdoor dining was full, the indoor dining was full, and that means that Seattleites will still eat outside in the winter. SDOT, one of the things about creating this interim period is so that SDOT can get the policies and guidelines that are right-sized for our city. We don't want to rush and jump to conclusions about how much a permit should cost or what the design standards should be. In the old way of doing things, the structure that we're standing under today would have had to pay the same amount as 5 parking spots. You can see them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't that doesn't pencil out for small businesses. And it also doesn't take into consideration the sales tax revenue that is generated by this space. So SDOT could have spent their time creating these regulations over the last number of months. Instead, they focused their time on getting these permits out to small businesses and helping them succeed. The bill that the mayor is signing today gives businesses flexibility and predictability that they need to use their entrepreneurial spirit to make our city more vibrant. And this is not just for the restaurants. This is also for retail. Some retail shops have opted to use curbside retail options, and foot traffic for dinner means more foot traffic for retail during the day. And so this really adds vibrancy, sales tax revenue, and gives small businesses another leg up and another tool in the toolbox. As we finalize the guidelines, there will be a cost to the permits, but it's not going to be 5 parking stalls worth. There will be regulations about what structures can and can't look like, and we're going to prioritize the flexibility needed to make sure that small businesses thrive with this. Because we understand that it's not just about parking stall revenue, it's also about sales tax revenue. And we need to make sure that these guidelines meet all ages and abilities guidelines so that no matter your age or your ability, you can get in and out of these structures easily. I hope that every neighborhood gets to have a street dedicated to business, because I want to see this vibrancy all across our city, not just in District 6. And before I conclude, I just want to thank Mayor Harrell, Elliot Helmbrick of Mayor Harrell's team, Elise Nelson and Aditi Kambuj of Seattle Department of Transportation, Mike Stewart, Doug Farr, Mike Stewart of Ballard Alliance, Doug Farr of the Seattle Farmers Market Association, Anna Zyvarts of Disability Rights Washington, and all of the businesses that use their entrepreneurial spirit to make Seattle more vibrant. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Harrell.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember Strauss. And one of the, hopefully one of the trademarks of our administration are going to be what you're seeing right now, and that is making sure that a council member knows his or her district very well, works with communities. As many of you know, we shifted to a district system when I was on the council, and one of the benefits of that is to have this kind of passion on a district basis that you're seeing from Councilmember Strauss. That's what this is about. Even being able to count these parking spots and realize how many were taken out of play to help our restaurants. Our next speaker is going to be Kristen Simpson from SDOT, and Kristen would like to say a few words.
The pandemic has brought so many challenges for so many people. It's also provided both an opportunity and an obligation for us to be flexible and nimble as we work to support small businesses and to provide safe space for neighbors to gather. This program aligns with our goals of providing space and also keeping our walkways and our roadways available for people walking and rolling. I want to especially thank the more than 10,000 people who responded to our survey and provided feedback on this important program. It's really helped shape it in a way that meets the needs of all of the users of our community space. I'm very much looking forward to dining in places around Seattle in all kinds of weather. So thank you to everyone who was a part of this so far and who will be helping us going forward to make it even better.
Thank you, Kristen. One of the requests I've made from all the departments is to be somewhat porous in nature. And by that I mean that typically in City Hall you have the City Council and the mayor and the departments, sort of this triangular ecosystem over here, working together to try to solve problems. And there's been walls up, sometimes by personality, sometimes by design. And I've made it crystal clear, having been on the second floor at City Hall for over about 12 years, that that is an ineffective model if in fact the council does not have ready access or working closely and collaboratively with the council. Be available, be accessible, provide information, don't put roadblocks up to the City Council, and I think you're seeing what that looks like today. And with that, I'm going to introduce Steve Hooper again, who is with the Restaurant Alliance and the Ethan Style Restaurants. Steve, can you share a few thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. A big thank you to Roberto for hosting us here at Carta de Oaxaca. It's one of my wife and I's favorite restaurants here in Ballard. We absolutely love it. This is kind of an ominous week. 2 years ago this week, our restaurant group had to lay off half of the team. 2 years ago next week, the governor shut us all down for indoor dining and created a lot of uncertainty in our industry. A lot of people, myself and my business partner, Ethan included, had no idea what was coming next. And if it wasn't for the leadership of council members like Councilmember Strauss, understanding what was happening in the city, stepping up and creating structures that we could utilize, we wouldn't have been able to hire back at the rates we were in 2020. And then into 2021, as indoor dining reopened and the outdoor structure stayed in place, it resulted in an increase in business overall and a benefit to cities and districts like Ballard Avenue, where we're standing right now. While the pandemic feels like it is ending for so many of us, and we're returning to a time when we can go out and feel comfortable dining indoors and out, the challenge for restaurants is not over yet. And the kind of permanency that we're talking about for these kinds of structures will continue to provide vibrancy throughout our city. I feel very lucky to have been included in the process and supporting everything that Councilmember Strauss and others have done along the way. And this policy, of all the things I've worked on as president of the Seattle Restaurant Alliance, is the most win-win-win situation I've ever seen. Customers are dining out all year round in these structures. Today, tonight, this structure will probably have a bunch of people inside of it, even though it's sprinkling right now. Our city wins because of the sales tax revenue that Councilmember Strauss mentioned. Our businesses get more revenue and more opportunity to pay off the large debts that some of us have incurred just to stay alive during this entire pandemic. And finally, the community as a whole has a place to gather both during the evenings and throughout the day. And so it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to say congratulations to Mayor Harrell for the first time in person. This is another proof of the city putting its faith in the right place, and a pleasure to be with you, Director, as well. So thank you very much for your time. Excited to be here and talking about this amazing program. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I did not pay him to say that, by the way. So before I do the bill signing and take on a few questions, I do want to introduce Roberto Dominguez from Carta de Oaxaca. He's been here for 19 years. This is sort of a home for him. The people around in District 6 know this place very well. And public speaking may not be his forte. His son's over here, Robert. I'm not going to call him out. I'm just going to say, hi, Robert. But Roberto, why don't you just say a little bit about your restaurant a little bit, and if you know, or your stories with how this has helped a little bit. And
well, hi everyone. My name is Roberto Dominguez. This restaurant's been here for 19 years. It's a family-owned restaurant. Started with my mom, my sister, niece, Karina back there. Robert has been around. What he's gonna say is thanks to whoever make up to Mayor Harrell about being able to like have this outdoor seating, or anyone. I mean, everyone who would make this possible, make it happen. At one point, we struggled during the pandemic, but thanks to being able to have outside seating, that keep us maybe still here. So I just want to say thanks, and then yeah, I mean, hopefully things get better. And but this, it was really support for us for like being able to like have access. Yes, sir.
if I had one question, and I lived in Seattle, what signature dish would you say you have to come and try here and
Well,
eat it outdoors in this nice fresh air?
Well, you just said it right. Just the mole, definitely the mole, the house specialty. That's the mole, but we try to make it as much authentic possible we can. A Oaxacan restaurant, but yeah, definitely the mole is one of the main dishes here. So
You heard it here. Go ahead, Councilmember.
This is one of the best restaurants in District 6.
thank you.
Without question. And that if you had failed during the pandemic, we would have a dark place here. And I'm just so glad that you have survived and thrived, and we're sitting with you today.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And like I said, like the young kids there, Robert Jr. and Karina, they pretty much been a big part of this to be able to be here. So I really thanks them, and thanks to everyone
Thanks, Roberto. You stole the show, but that's okay. I'm going to sign the bill now, and then I'll answer a few questions. That the order by which we'll do this. Veto proof. All right, we'll take a few questions. And again, thank you for being here, for covering this movement we're doing in the city. Please. I'm going to, just one sec, Paul. Jamie, can I watch your step? Can I help you navigate through the questions a little bit? Jamie does a better job at me of this. Go ahead, Jamie, just help me out.
Sure. Paul, you can go ahead. Sure, real quick.
Yes,
Mayor,
Paul.
I wanted to ask you about other help that can be offered to businesses. I've done stories here along Ballard. Some businesses have been broken into, vandalized. So other help you can offer to them in that situation. Also, would it be possible to put a mobile precinct here in Seattle Police Department?
Thanks for the question, Paul. You hit the nail on the head that we have to begin with effective public safety, that people need to feel safe before they make a dining decision. So we always end up with first trying to understand how people feel, and we do that from talking to small businesses, talking to the patrons. So that's always our approach. With respect to the mobile precinct, it is mobile, and we will move it where we think its presence will be beneficial. We have not made a tactical decision to do that here yet. We very well may. I actually, you've heard me use the expression staying in my lane a little bit. So I do rely on the experts to understand those with, a criminology background as what would be effective. On the one hand, we want to make sure everyone feels safe, but on the other hand, we don't want to make it feel like we're living in a militarized or over-policed area. So it's a balance. And we do that by talking to residents, talking to public safety advocates, and we make these decisions on a week-to-week basis often. So we sit down with our tactical team, which consists of the police department, people on my executive team. We talk to the community and we'll make decisions. And again, in order for a business like this to thrive, people have to feel safe, and that's our value that we will lead with.
Erica and then Nicole.
There was, and I'm not seeing it right now, but there was reference in this press release to businesses that are not storefronts, not retail, like the businesses, like I'm thinking Yonder Brewing got a lot of publicity a while back. What is there in this legislation for small home-based businesses? Are those being extended, and where are those going to be continue to be allowed?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Erica. Councilmember Strauss,
Thank you.
It's called staying in my lane sometimes.
So I can say again, Mayor Harrell referenced One Seattle and the partnership with City Council. And what I can tell you, in the 2 months of his mayorship, we have gotten more work done than in the last 2 years. So with Bringing Business Home, there's going to be another temporary. So Bringing Business Home is the home-based occupancy bill that allows a little bit of flexibility around the land use code. All home-based businesses are still subject to Department of Health, Department of, licensed liquor, all of the regulatory departments. Those home-based businesses still have to get permits from them. Bringing Business Home is about land use flexibility. There's going to be a short extension while we finalize the permanent regulations. There were some things that worked really well. There were a couple tweaks that we had to make. So you'll be seeing, actually in Land Use Committee, tomorrow is going to be the first briefing about the extension.
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss.
Nicole.
For radio, Mayor, could you just give a brief summary of what is in the legislation, and then do you have a ballpark estimate of what the permits will cost? I know they won't cost the 5 parking stalls worth, but what's a ballpark number?
Yeah. So I will describe it a little bit, but again, this is legislation spearheaded by Councilmember Strauss. So I'll say, it gives, once again, flexibility after we've done a 10,000 member listening tour. We're reducing the red tape with respect to the permit process, working with SDOT. Councilmember Strauss, do you want to?
I'll help. Yeah. So we're going to go into a little bit of wonk zone. Stick with me. Before the pandemic, what we had were parklets, or about, as far as those seats that you can see right there are away from the storefront, which were very small amounts of space for a business to use for outdoor dining. And they were very costly, so it did not pencil out for most businesses. What we are doing with this legislation today is we have removed the fee that businesses have to pay, and we've provided SDOT the flexibility that they need to allow businesses to have structures such as this. During this interim period after the pilot, we've already done the pilot, we're now in the interim period, SDOT is taking the time to get those permanent regulations right-sized for our city so that, because the permits will cost money, and there will be design regulations and size regulations, etc. And we want to make sure that we are setting up small businesses to succeed with their entrepreneurial spirit in our city.
We've got time for maybe one more question.
Thanks, Councilmember Strauss.
Behind.
Mayor, or Councilmember Strauss, a couple questions here. Number one, if it's so popular, is there talk of maybe keeping it indefinitely past January 2023? And number two, on the city's blog, it also talked about how some people were concerned about mobility on the sidewalks and lack of parking, obviously, because you're taking up parking spaces to do these structures, traffic congestion. What's being done to address those?
Those are all great questions. I might have you run down those bullet points for me again, just so I can address them one by one. With parking, as you see, we are having both the ability to have people eating outside and to park their cars. There's many parking stalls here. What we also see here in Ballard is with increased density, we have more people living close to where these people are eating. If you look across the street, we've got another 7-story tower. On 24th and Market Street, I think we've got 3 towers going in. We have the ability to have people not have to use their cars to get here and have the ability for people to park. What were the other bullet points?
Well, I also want to get this question
Sure.
asked. Is there plans to maybe push it past 2023 January?
Thank you. That is so critical. This is the pathway to permanence. Permanence meaning these structures are going to be permanent. Yes, we're going to extend this past 2023. If we have to do another extension of this interim design, we'll do that. But what everyone should know is that outdoor dining is here to stay in Seattle. And we have to get those policies right-sized in the in-between.
So if these structures are going to be permanent, but you haven't figured out all the regulations and safety guidelines and all that, are the ones that are built now going to be grandfathered in, or are they going to have to be brought up to code?
That's going to be part of the conversation, and that's why we're taking this moment, rather than passing permanent regulations that might not be right-sized or coming down with decrees from above, we're working with small businesses to make sure that this process meets their need so that they're not left holding a bag at the end of the day that they can't use.
So that that doesn't really answer the question. So they're not going to be grandfathered. You don't know yet, or if these structures are going to be grandfathered in, or?
That's part of the design regulations that are going in right now, and we're going to be here to support the small businesses to make sure that their investments are not for nothing.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask you about the City Hall Park homeless encampment? What's going to happen to that? That started and stopped in terms of the sweep. New tents have moved in. When are you going to address that again?
Thanks, Jonathan. Are you talking about the encampments around City Hall? Is that what you're referring to, Jonathan?
4th and Cherry
Sure.
in Columbia.
Sure.
New tents have moved in there.
Sure. I want to make 2 points on that. Number one is when I talk about sidewalk obstructions and moving people such that we have access, I think one point often gets left out of the conversation when I talk about leading with compassion, that I still want people to be housed and I want them warm. And so our approach will always lead with that, making sure that we can make areas safe for social workers and those very experienced at helping people in a mental crisis can be safe doing what they do. You will see here that in the very near future that you'll see us continuing our efforts to make sure our sidewalks are free of obstructions and people are out of camps and in a housing. So I'm not going to give specifics on whether it's going to be 3 Tuesdays from tomorrow or something like that, but we have a plan and we'll implement the plan, and I'm just going to leave it there. So I know, once again, I've said that I've been in office for 2 months now, and these problems that I'm addressing have been around for years. And I asked the city openly and transparently and I've said this, that no one wants a safer Seattle and a sidewalks without obstructions more than the mayor that they've elected. Let us implement our plan. We have a plan and we're implementing it. So when I say you have a sense of urgency, that sense of urgency is little compared to mine. So you will see action, and we'll keep the lines open. So thank you for your question. I'm not going to give you, would you like a certain date?
I just want to know why the sweep started then stopped, and if the protesters had anything to do with stopping it.
Fair question. Thank you for the question. Fair question. My policies on how we clean up Seattle, how we create it safe, we don't have a militarized approach. We're not trying to strong arm our way back to safety. We're trying to lead with compassion and love. So if I make an executive decision to stop, I will make that decision. If I make an executive decision to continue, I'll make that decision. Those decisions rest on my shoulder, and I make them unashamedly. I want the city clean. I want it safe. More to come. I'm in here for the long game to rehabilitate Seattle. I'm here for the long game, and you don't emphasize the strategy in the long game by creating chaos and anger in the city. This is one Seattle where we listen to one another. And I ask those with perhaps intolerance of what you see, bear with me. Bear with me. We're going to get back on the right track. And I want to thank Councilmember Strauss, what you're on my right, on my left, that this kind of partnership you're seeing will also be critical toward our success, because I listen to the council members. I mean, I'm not going to take a lot of credit. Yeah, I put my signature on there, but they did the hard work listening to the communities, and I made sure that my departments are working with the council member. I'm telling my department heads, be there for the council. Be there for each district. I lost the battle to have this in District 2, by the way. But it's appropriate to have it in District 6 because of Councilmember Strauss's leadership. Jonathan, I understand your point. We have a plan, we'll implement it. Thank you very much.